way you feel. No, someone may have different views of your own. Then let's talk to one another. Let's reason with one another on a scriptural discussion with the Son of Man. A live broadcast every Sunday at 12 on TV 33, FM 88.1 and Comcast K. So why don't you call and then discuss the Holy Bible, have the Holy Quran, and come to an agreement about the Holy Scriptures and truth. So then, for scriptural discussion with the Son of Man every Sunday at 12 noon, right here on TV 33, FM 88.1 WHCR and Comcast K. You can call in live on the air at every 868-436, 868-0342, and 868-0351. Of course, the area code is 313. That's 313-868-4336, 868-0342, and 868-0351. And now let's go live. Scriptural discussion. Man.
In the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Most Merciful, the Truthful, and the Most Just, I greet all of you who have the hunger and thirst for righteousness. I greet you all with the greeting words of peace. May Allah's salam alaikum. I want to give each of you who have disagreements with us, we want to give you the opportunity to discuss it. You know, many times people think that my followers are a bunch of yes men and yes women. That's not the case. They got in all of their arguments with me before they decided to follow me, which is intelligent. Because once you say that you believe in me and trust in me, I don't expect you to be trying to argue with me. You're supposed to already figured out that I know better than you. And so this is not, you notice you don't hear a lot of people hollering, that's right, teach. That's right. You don't hear nobody saying nothing when I'm teaching. Because that's not required when you're in a class. Even when I was in elementary, junior high, and high school, and I took a few courses at junior college. Then even when I went to American Barber College and got a license to cut hair, when the class was going on, wasn't nobody hollering, that's right, teach it. We was taking notes. If you start saying something in there, the man would stop and say, well, what is it? If you didn't have a question or something, then the classroom was quiet. Now, I don't know how you conduct your classes in school, but I know how the public school was when I was in there. The only one talking was the teacher. And generally, the only one who understood the subject matter was the teacher. If you understood it all already, you was in the wrong grade. You should have moved on. They should have skipped you. So I I don't expect those who are my followers to be trying to argue with me. Now, those who not following me, that's the ones I'm looking to argue with. That's who I want to have conversations and back and forth about what they think and all that kind of thing. My followers trust what I think because they tested what they thought against me already. You see? So you who think that you know something and you know something that I don't know and all of that kind of thing, well, you come on in here and let's discuss it. This is a scriptural discussion with the Son of Man. I am the Son of Man. Now, it's obvious that if you want to argue with me, it's obvious to me that you don't believe that's who I am. So then it's not up to you to prove to me that I'm the Son of Man. It's up to me to prove to you that I'm the Son of Man. Well, what better way to do that than to leave myself open to everybody who disagrees with me? That's the one thing about the sun. It don't make no difference. You notice, the moon got they call it a dark side, when it's actually not no dark side. The moon is a disk. It's not a sphere. And so when as it's turning, then pretty soon you don't see no convex part of it. That's why as it turns, you only see portions of the convex part of it, because the light going past the back of it, because there ain't nothing back there. But anyway, see, he never told you and me that. But I found that out from the Honorable Elijah Muhammad by putting it together. Because if it was blasted away from the earth, then certainly it's not no ball. It's not a sphere. It's a disk with a convexed surface on it. And so, but anyway, I won't get into that with you unless you try to argue with me. Then I will take you in the scriptures and show you that a whole ocean of water was poured back on this part when the moon was blasted away from here. And it took 40 days and 40 nights for it all to fall, because it got caught up in the rotation of the earth in the atmosphere, in that part of the atmosphere, and it was just hovering up there and falling steady. You know, if like I said, when I was taking a shower, when it used to be hot out west, we didn't have no swimming pool, so we used a water hose. And I used to marvel over how I could shoot the water up in the air in just a few seconds. But it took a long time for it to finish falling. And I used to marvel over that, not knowing that one day I was going to be standing up here explaining how the water that was in that valley all gushed forth and fell back to this part of the earth and created a flood on that part of the earth. So we are not here to make up nothing. We are here to prove that the prophets knew what they was talking about. See, I'm here verifying them. That's what Allah said in the 3rd chapter of the Quran. He said, and a messenger comes to you, talking to them, to the prophets, verifying that which is with you. You shall believe in him, and you shall aid him. And so that's why they all said, Paul said it for them. He said, for me to be absent from the body. And notice, Jesus is absent from the body that mind originated in. David is absent from that body. Solomon is absent from that body. that they said they would be present with the Lord. That's why I say he cometh with clouds, you see. And the clouds is witnesses, and that's what they are. They are clouds of witnesses, books that bear me witness, and that I verify that the words in them are true, you see. So, you know, I guess the longer you listen to me, the more you realize it's not me that's crazy. It's you that's crazy if you ain't got sense enough to accept and follow me. You know, this the last train out of hell for you. I'm the engineer, the conductor, and the locomotive. You better get on board. You better hook your little box car to it. But suit yourself. Like I told you, I'm not here to beg you. If you wanna go and keep serving the devil, that's the mind that's in you. That's the devil. He was given dominion over you for the past 6,000 years. Thank you, baby. That mind that's in you right now, you know, that think all them crazy thoughts, always trying to figure out how to hurt somebody, always trying to figure out how to make fun of people, always trying to figure out how to con people out of something. You've been looking for the devil. You've been carrying the devil around on your shoulder. So now if you want to stay that way, well, okay. You want to stay conformed to this world? Well, that's you. You know, most people, they come into this world and they conform right away. They consciously form themselves by their environment. You see, their environment shapes their mind. And that's why this was called the hells of North America. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad referred to this country here. He says, the hells of North America. Because everywhere you go, people acting on misunderstanding. That's why ain't nobody got no peace. Ain't none of you got no peace. And I know you ain't got no peace because you break everybody else's peace. Tell you what you do. Be honest. And there's people that live around me. Any one of you that claim I break your peace, come in here and tell what I did to break your peace. I live by what I say I preach. If I can't help you, I just leave you alone. I don't stick my nose in your business. I've learned that, you know, if you're not invited into a person's home, even if the door is open, don't you walk across that threshold. Because they're going, first thing, who invited you in here? Well, the door was open. That's my door. You know you don't live here. Right? So, unless it's one of my followers that's involved in it or whatnot, then I see you going through something which I may ask your permission to butt in your conversation. But I ain't gonna just walk up there butting in, even if I see that I could help. Because I know you. Your first thing be, nigga, who told you? Ain't nobody talking to you. That's the first thing you'd say. And you'd be right. even though I ain't your nigga. But I asked for that by butting in. Do you understand? I know what time I know what day and time I'm living in. You living in the book says perilous times shall come. And if you don't know how to conduct yourself in this day and time, even when you right, you're going to appear to be wrong. Simply because you didn't know how to present yourself. You see? So I'm trying to teach you civilized behavior. Because if you don't take the lesson, then you'll be one of those people that'll be thought about when I'm giving the lesson, and they will say, yeah, so-and-so is an example of that. So you become the lesson. You see, whenever somebody get a chance to say, I told you so, you just became the lesson. Huh? Because obviously they tried to tell you or warn you about something and you didn't listen. And then that thing that they warned you about happened to you, and all they could do is say, I told you. Huh? Then you standing there with egg on your face. You know where they get that term from? Standing there with egg on your face? Well, you know, they say snakes like eggs, you know. He busts it and he get it all over his face. You look for snakes and foxes and stuff. They have eggs on their face. You see? You so smart, can't nobody tell you nothing. You so slick that you can slither past anybody. Okay. Okay, slick. So I want to give those who have disagreements with me, if you can tell me what it is that you disagree with me about, I can go into depth into why I said it to you and show you that I knew what I was talking about. You know, I'm not the person who speaks and don't know what he's talking about. When I say don't know, means don't understand. I understand what I'm saying, and I understand why I'm saying it. It's just like they just now catching up to me. And I told them what Donald Trump meant when he said he drained the swamp. I mean, he had already confessed that politicians, he'd get along with all of them. He said he donate to all of them. Well, do that sound like he wasn't part of the swamp that you was talking about? Well, if he was already part of that, which you thought he was talking about getting rid of, well, you know, that showed you didn't understand what he was talking about. He wasn't talking about getting rid of himself. No, but you have to remember the history of Washington. The history of Washington is that Washington is drained, it was a swamp, and they drained it and filled it and built that city on it, according to what they taught us. So the thing that's, if you're going to drain that place that used to be a swamp now, I mean, you're going to get rid of the government that's there. How do you get rid of a government as strong as the United States? The same way you get rid of one of them giant redwoods up there in that in that forest, you look like a fool trying to take a power saw, and they'd stop you anyway. Catch you up there cutting on one of them big trees, they'd haul your behind away. And so the thing you'd have to do is either poison the roots or just expose them. Then it die. But the roots are deep down. They deep into the ground. You see? The living state of that tree, that giant redwood, is because of the deep state of their roots. And it goes way down, and they are alive, nourishing that tree, sustaining that tree, stabilizing that tree. Of course, if you unearth the roots, now you understand what he meant by deep state, huh? That's what the FBI is. It's the deep statesmen, people who are patriotic. Those are the people who join the FBI. Those are the people who join the Secret Service. Those are the people who join the Central Intelligence agencies. Those are the people who care so deeply about this country that they want to spend their life defending and protecting it. Even we used to call the people who join the Marine Corps and make a career out of it, we call them lifers. You know, most of those who are lifers, they are part of the deep state, the roots of the state. Would be the protectors of this nation if they didn't get one dime. All you had to do is provide some a place for them to lay their head and clothes on their back and food for their stomach, and they'd still stay right there, because that's basically what the military is. I mean, when I was in there, I didn't need no money. I got 3 squares a day, had didn't have to wonder how I was gonna make no clothes. Have clothing. Anytime my boots got too worn, I'd just go to the supply and talk to the supply sergeant or whoever was over the supply, and he just, hey man, here you go. And give me some new boots, give me some new fatigues, and I was on my way. That's why we spent most of our time gambling. We didn't need no money, except the brothers who had, except the Marines who had wives and families, and some of them that had a little more sense than the rest of us. But I wasn't one of them. I didn't keep no money. I was, didn't need no money. So I'd get out there shooting pool or whatever. If I win, I'd still go to town and blow it. So, but I wasn't worried about it. I'm going to get another check next month for just being there. You see? And towns around military, like Oceanside, they made most of their money off of servicemen coming in there, spending their money. But I don't want to sound like I'm reminiscing. No, I don't miss that. I'm just saying I learned something from those experiences. You don't make a career out of the military unless you care deeply for this country. And so you don't join the FBI if they will have you. You don't join that for a paycheck. You join that because you care about this country. And it's insulting. It's an insult for you to let anybody I mean, it's an insult to you. As a common citizen, to have somebody that you elected to the government, that it's absolutely the FBI and all of them that help protect them. And then they stand up there and insult the very people who have been defending this country while we was all sleeping. That's just wrong, man. And I'm going to tell you something, every one of y'all that helped do that, if America just happened to get overthrown by these people who do not like a democratic system and who would rather be dictators, you in for a shock, because you're going to be some of the first ones that they get rid of. Because they know that if you couldn't deal with a country that you have freedom to speak your mind, you have freedom to assemble and even talk against the government and all of that, and you didn't have sense enough to appreciate that, they know you ain't gonna be able to tolerate them telling you when to get up, when to go to bed, what you can say and what you can't say. So they're gonna get rid of you. So they'll make a few of you. They'll make a few of you some of their lackeys. You know, and then you're being brought up to speak your mind and to tell people off and all of that. That's going to sooner or later get you in trouble. I mean, you just can't stop. You're not going to be able to be quiet. If America ain't in unity on but one thing, it may not be in unity on a whole lot of things, but when it comes to a big mouth and talking and whatnot, everybody in America got a big mouth. It'd be just like that song in church. Said I wasn't gonna tell nobody, but I just can't keep it to myself. Because when you don't like a thing, you are used to speaking out about it. People under tyrants and dictators, they're used to remaining silent. That's why they envy you so much. And then they see that you don't really understand what you have here, man. And you know what happens when you got something valuable and you don't realize it? Con man can come and trick you out of it, huh? Yeah. Mm-hmm. Let me show you something. Let me see, where did I want to start? Do you want me to start with Kavanaugh or Trump? I'll let y'all decide. Let somebody in the phone tell me, or on the internet. Where you want me to start with? Mr. Kavanaugh or Mr. Trump? I could start with either one. Since this Supreme Court pick is coming up, I think I'll start with him. I want you to look at this. Mute your phone back, will you? You know, y'all take a year and a day to answer. Then when I get ready to start, then you unmute your phone. Anyway, now I want you to pay good attention to Mr. Graham, Lindsey Graham's questioning of Mr. Kavanaugh. I think he surprised Mr. Graham too. You see, because there were some easy questions that he asked him, and he messed that up. Now, Listen, and I'll tell you what I heard. And you know, you might have heard it too, but I don't think you did. But I'm going to show you the value of listening. I remember I was looking at The Godfather. When you know, with Marlon Brando, with the you know, they don't put The Godfather on how many times? More than we can count up. Okay, so I remember when his father told him, when Michael's father told him, he said, keep your friends close and your enemies closer. You know, in this, you know, if I hold you as an enemy, then that's really a if I consider you my enemy, and if I consider myself to be a just and upright man, I have to listen to you closely because I might be wrong about you. You know, that's the one thing you learn from, something else you learn from growing up in America and studying their reasoning about the justice system. First of all, when you come into court, now many people confuse the police department with the court. The police don't consider you innocent until proven guilty. They consider you guilty until you can prove that you're innocent. Do you understand? If they go around presuming everybody to be innocent, they would never arrest nobody. The first thing they do is arrest you and tell you why. They charge you. It's up to you to go in there, and once they charge you, to plead guilty or what? Or not guilty. You see, the court assumes that you are innocent. They have to. The burden of proof, the burden to prove that you are guilty, rests on those who arrested you. Do you understand? Okay. So likewise, if I consider you an enemy, if I consider that you don't mean me no good, based on some facts that I have, then I need to make sure that everything, all of the facts that I have are truly facts. So when he said, he said, keep your friends close and your enemies closer. Well, to me, that means listen to your friends. Take, you know, when they're talking, but listen closer to those that you say are your enemies. The CIA, that's what they do. They listen to those who are potential or maybe are enemies, mostly outside of America. According to what I've learned from listening to the news. If they find something going on inside of America untoward, they alert the FBI. The United States Federal Bureau who investigates all that kind of stuff. Huh? To condemn the FBI for investigating anybody is tantamount to treason. Because you're trying to condemn them for doing what they was designed to do. If you ain't doing nothing wrong, well, they can clear you of any suspicion. You ought to be glad of that. When you start fighting them against investigating you, that's a look. When you got ready to get married, I mean, your daddy, he wanted to know something about that boy that you was bringing home. Is that right? Oh, who is this people? And now you sitting up there, what difference do it make? Show you ain't ready to get married. The daddy and mama looking way down the road, and you looking at your hormones. Because you know, all of that excitement gonna be gone after a while. Then you gonna see the real person. And maybe they wasn't even hiding themselves, but you were so struck that you couldn't see what was right in front of you. So any man that wants to protect his family investigates their friends. If he's any kind of man. Huh? I mean, what are you doing hanging out over there with that dope dealer there? That's one of your buddies? And you dating my daughter? Huh? You run a country like you run a house. If you don't love your country, you ain't got no business being president. You ain't got no business being governor. You ain't got no business being a mayor. You ain't got no business being a police chief. You ain't got no business being nothing over people that you do not care about. here and making the phone squeal and all that kind of thing. You know what the scripture says about the cup that she hath filled to her double? You know what that means? It means that everything that you do and think you getting by with, once you determine that's how you want to do someone else, that's what Allah gonna let you do to yourself. When you think you point it out on somebody else, it's gonna reverse and pull back on you. You really don't know what you playing with. Just like right now, you think them people on the East Coast that support Trump and do all of that crazy and all the crazy stuff he did, and what happened to Puerto Rico, ain't nobody got on him about it, and they let him get away with that. Now, how you think them people feel with this thing, this hurricane headed towards them now? How you think they feel? Hey, but I want you to listen. It's just like, I was wondering why the Democrats didn't do when the Republicans, when the Democrats had the majority in the House, Republicans, when they didn't want to let someone be voted on, they did what was called filibustering. When the Republicans took over the House, they did away with the right to filibuster. I should say when the alternative Republicans took over the House of Representatives and the Senate. When they took over the Senate, when they became the majority, they did away with the filibuster rule so that the minority party didn't have no redress against anything that they was doing. That's not democracy. That's mob rule. In a democracy, even those who have the least votes are still given some power to express their grievances and to hold up things where you can't just have a one-party system. But you sit back and you watched all this stuff, this unjust stuff happen, and you didn't say nothing. You know, generally when you come before a judge, the first time that he really has an unction of your case is when it came in front of him. He didn't know nothing about it, but what you brought in that time. It's like me, I didn't know nothing about how your system worked. I wasn't even involved in it. I was satisfied to leave politics to white people. But I realized that, you know, you can't live in the world and ignore what's going on. Because sooner or later, it's going to come to your door. Now, if you hear me give some misinformation, now you understand why the Democrats ain't doing what the Republicans did. They won't let you stand up there and hold up a vote by talking. They call it filibustering. Because Mitch McConnell and the crooks up there that's telling him what to do, and they changed the rules. So anyway, now watch this.
If you don't mind, and you don't have to, what did you tell your children yesterday about the hearing?
They did as they, I'll tell them what they told me. I don't think I'll.
Now, why didn't he just say, I didn't really talk to my children? If he got the hedge and because he's not finna answer the question was not, what did your children tell you? The question was, what did you tell your children? Was that a hard question? He could have just as simply said, well, I didn't have no discussion about it with my children. But now that you brought it up, maybe I should have, but I didn't think that was important. I don't generally bring my children into these type of decisions or arenas. You know, I mean, there wasn't nothing wrong with saying that I didn't tell my children nothing. I don't talk to my children about everything I'm planning on doing. Matter of fact, depending on how old they was, my children will tell you that I never did discuss a lot of things with them. I let them be children. They find out how rough the world is after a while. At least they don't have to say I robbed them out of their childhood. Then when they get grown, then they want to go back and get what they missed when they was a child. When they're not a child no more, you're supposed to be moving on forward and not looking back to what you missed. But most people can't get with that. Spend too much time regretting. I ain't got no time to be spending regretting what stuff that happened to me when I was a child. That's not normal, not for me. Because I'm not that little boy no more. And I done seen stuff happen to people that, messed over me, and I felt sorry for them. Just, you don't get away with that stuff. Oh, but anyway, now he gonna go through some long drawn out nothing, sitting up there grinning.
They gave me a big hug and said, "Good job, Daddy." And Margaret, before she went to bed, made a special trip down and said, "Give me a special hug."
I just wish if we could have a hearing where the nominees' kids could show up. Is that asking too much? So what kind of...
Where did that come from? I'll tell you where it came from. He knows that the children of nominees and whatnot should be able to come and see their father or their mother at events like that, and show them what the justice system and what the American government looks like in action. If for nothing else, to put pride in them. That's why you have people that don't believe in the Constitution except when it's convenient. That's why you ask the average one of these people that talking about they love the American flag so much, you get them to lead the Pledge of Allegiance, they don't even know it. Was even arguing about take under God out of the Pledge of Allegiance. Don't want nobody to say one nation under God. That's what you done failed to. But just watch this.
Tree have we become? None of this happened just a couple of years ago. It's getting worse and worse and worse, and all of us have an obligation to try to correct it.
A couple of years ago was when the Republicans took over the government. They start changing all of the human qualities of the government. Now they're down there ripping babies away from their parents and not calling it kidnapping. They ain't gonna call it what it is. When they get caught doing it, then they figure out another way to do it when we put the children and the parents in jail. You know, when you get so bold with your injustice that you're willing to do it in front of the whole world, you all but daring God to step in. So remember, what you see as a consequence of your looking the other way when you saw people being mistreated, when you saw things being done to other people that you would not have been quiet about if it was being done to you. Just remember that when you reap the wrath of God for what you did and what you failed to do. You remember that now.
Where we can. Roe v. Wade. Are you familiar with the case?
I am, Senator.
Can you, in 30 seconds, give me the general holding of Roe v. Wade?
As elaborated upon in Planned Parenthood versus Casey, a woman has a constitutional right, as interpreted by the Supreme Court on the Constitution, to obtain an abortion up to the point of viability, subject to reasonable regulations by the state, so long as those reasonable regulations do not constitute an undue burden on the woman's right.
You notice he didn't say in 30 seconds what Roe v. Wade really says. It says that a woman have a right over her own body. That's the bottom line of it. Is any lawyers listening? Come on in here and tell me that that's not what Roe v. Wade actually was saying. That you cannot force a woman to have a baby that she don't want. She's not your slave, she's free. How come he didn't say that? I didn't hear you. It's just like people, they hear what they want to hear. I'll have you know that the head of every man is Christ, and the head of the woman is the man. And they love to quote that. But when you look at these fellows who want to quote it the most, you notice they don't obey the prophets. Then they want to suggest that the woman ain't got no say-so in nothing. Well, the scripture says that you obey, children obey your parents in the Lord. Wives obey your husbands in the Lord. I mean, what happened when he decided that he ain't going to do what the Lord wants done? Then what? People make a slave out of you if you stupid. The scripture was just giving you the chain of command. That wasn't God relinquishing his authority over every human being on this planet. So instead of him just saying that Roe versus Wade was just an acknowledgement and a reaffirmment that the woman is not anyone's slave. She has rights over her own body. Listen to the question and listen to his answer again.
So what kind of country have we become? None of this happened just a couple of years ago. It's getting worse and worse and worse, and all of us have an obligation to try to correct it where we can. Roe v. Wade. Are you familiar with the case?
I am, Senator.
Can you, in 30 seconds, give me the general holding of Roe v. Wade?
As elaborated upon in Planned Parenthood versus Casey, a woman has a constitutional right, as interpreted by the Supreme Court on the Constitution, to obtain an abortion up to the point of viability, subject to reasonable regulations by the state, so long as those reasonable regulations do not constitute an undue burden on the woman's right.
Now, this is a man that you want on the Supreme Court that doesn't recognize that it wasn't about a right to abortion. It was about a woman's right over her own body. What, are you crazy? That's what the Supreme Court justices was about. It wasn't about killing babies. It was about making sure that you could not rape a woman. You could not do things to her and force her into slavery and call it you preserving life. You know the only person that would try to do that to a woman is a devil. A woman don't mind having a baby for a man she loves. No. But she do mind having a baby for a man that raped her. You remember the Godfather? When she told him, I'm never going to bring another one of your babies in this world. Huh? He beat her up. When she found out what kind of mess she had got herself in, she decided she didn't want no more babies for him. Is that right? Could you blame her? See, they ain't really telling you what the real deal is. The real deal is they want to force the woman to becoming a baby factory for whoever can force themselves on her. I'm gonna show you. He's gonna trap his own self. Just wait.
Okay, as to how the system works, can you sit down with you and 4 other judges and overrule Roe v. Wade just because you want to?
So Roe v. Wade is an important precedent of the Supreme Court that reaffirmed.
Don't you have to have a case I mean, you just can't, hey, what are you doing for lunch? Let's overrule Roe v.
What was the first thing that he should have said when he was asked a point blank question? Can you just sit down and just say, let's overturn Roe v. Wade? What was the first thing he should have said before going into some litany of rhetoric? He should have said no. The Supreme Court don't just sit up and start saying we're going to overturn Roe versus Wade, we're going to overturn this and overturn. A case got to come in front of them and be presented to them. And if it happens to be a case that's like Roe v. Wade, then Roe versus Wade comes back up. Do you understand? But he gave him some easy questions. And he's such a snake that he can't give a straight answer on nothing. Is that the kind of man you want deciding things that affect your life? A man that's always talking crooked instead of coming straight? Okay, just hold up.
It doesn't work that way, right?
I see what you're asking, Senator. Right. There's the way cases come up to us in that context or in other contexts would be a law.
Can I give you an example? Because I do this quicker.
Yes.
So some state somewhere or some town somewhere passes a law that.
Listen at that. I can do this quicker. You letting them know this. What are you doing? The man can't even answer simple questions. And everybody that's in that hearing knows that man ain't got no business on the Supreme Court. They know he ain't got no business on that. Including Lindsey Graham, who questioning him and trying to give him a pass. But he know that man ain't got no business on the Supreme Court. Listen.
Into the face of Roe. Somebody will object. They'll go to lower courts, and eventually it might come up to the Supreme Court challenging the foundations of Roe v. Wade. It would take some legislative enactment for that to happen. Is that correct?
That's correct.
If there was such an action by a state or a local government challenging Roe, and it came before the Supreme Court, would you listen to both sides?
I listen to both sides in every case, Senator. I have for 12 years. Yes.
When it comes to overruling a long-standing precedent of the court, is there a formula that you use? Analysis.
So
now listen to his answer real closely. When it comes to overturning or overruling precedents, what is your formula for it? Now, I'm going to let him ask the question. You know, he asked him, what formula would you use if, you know, in overturning something that there has been a precedent set on? Now, listen to his answer. And do you suppose that Mr. Kavanaugh is an educated man? He seems to be pretty highly educated, doesn't he? So do you think he does not know the meaning of words that he chooses to use? Huh? Okay, now listen. Listen to him carefully. I'm going to back it up a little.
To the Supreme Court challenging the foundations of Roe v. Wade. It would take some legislative enactment for that to happen. Is that correct?
That's correct.
If there was such an action by a state or a local government challenging Roe, and it came before the Supreme Court, would you listen to both sides?
I listen to both sides in every case, Senator. I have for 12 years. Yes.
When it comes to overruling a long-standing precedent of the court, is there a formula that you use? Analysis.
So, first of all, you start with the notion of precedent. And as I've said to Senator Feinstein, in this context, this.
Did you hear him? What did he say? You start with the what? Now, most of you all, that's just normal talk to you because you don't pay attention. A man, people can be planning your death right in front of you, and you never know it because you don't pay attention to language. Listen to this. I mean, people, you look. That's one of the things that if you are not literate, if you don't understand language, if you are a person that takes things for granted, instead of taking people for what they say, this man is too highly educated that he don't mean. Do you understand?
For the Supreme Court, would you listen to both sides?
I listen to both sides in every case, Sarah. I have for 12 years. Yes.
When it comes to overruling a longstanding precedent of the court, is there a formula that you use? Analysis.
So, first of all, you start with the notion of precedent. And as I've said to Senator.
Now, see now, his answering that, when I listened to him closely, that sent up a red flag for me, and it told me everything I wanted to know about what he thought he was doing and who he thought he was talking to. Because the average person, they hear that and they don't see nothing wrong with what he's saying. Let's see here. Let's look up notion. Notion, a belief or opinion, a mental image, an idea or conception, an impulse or a whim. That's a strange word for him to use on a Supreme Court precedent. It tells you that he does not agree with precedents. He calls precedents a notion of precedence. In other words, with the false idea, let's get on down to it. It says a vague, let's get down to it. A vague idea or impression. An idea, concept, or opinion, an inclination or a whim. Let's go a little further. A general, vague, or imperfect conception or idea. We begin with the notion of precedent. Well, he telling them he don't believe in precedents. He don't care what the court before him said. This notion of precedent, I don't agree with that. Huh? Now, let's look up precedent then. Because, maybe precedent don't mean what we think it means. So let's see.
precedent. An act or instance that may be used as an example in dealing with subsequent similar instances. In law, a judicial decision that is binding on other equal or lower courts in the same jurisdiction as to its conclusion on a point of law, and may also be persuasive to courts in other jurisdictions in subsequent cases involving sufficiently similar acts. Convention or custom arising from long practice. Do that sound like a whim? So do that sound like a notion? Then why did he say, I begin with the notion of precedent? The notion of precedent. The mere fact he said the notion of precedent is telling you that he does not agree that there's a such thing as a precedent. He can rule however he wants. If he don't think something was right, don't make no difference what the courts did before. And tell me something. What does that tell you about his respect for the Supreme Court? Because if every time justices change and the courts, the Supreme Court justices, every time you get new Supreme Court justices, then everything goes back to square one. We don't know what the law gonna be from now on then. Well, then you don't have a judicial system that people can put their faith and trust in. And once people lose faith and trust in their judicial system, in the system of justice, when they start thinking they can't get no justice, then you setting yourself up for revolution. You setting yourself up for destruction. And if he don't believe that the Supreme Court precedents that they have set in cases should not be changed on his notion, on his whim, or his political view, or his personal view, he have no business sitting on that court if he don't care about the integrity of the court. Just like when I heard Justice Scalia suggest that the courts before him were wrong in not allowing people to put as much money as they wanted in elections, I'd say this man done lost his mind. Wasn't long after that he fell dead. So you're going to offer America's government up for sale to the highest bidder? And when he said it, he said, well, people should be able to spend their money like they want. That's freedom of speech. And he laughed. So I saw the game now. You know, you got people sitting up in this country like that family they found that had been 10 years planted, waiting on the time to move. Russian agents. Just wait. Okay, so now that was a giveaway of him calling the precedents the notion of precedence. In other words, that's just something I don't know where you get that from. No such thing as a precedent. That's what he really was meaning. He said notion. A vague idea of a precedent. Okay. He said it. I didn't. I just made sure that you heard what I heard. You want to hear it again?
Up to us in that context or in other contexts would be a law.
Can I give you an example? If I do this quicker.
Yes.
So some state somewhere or some town somewhere passes a law that runs into the face of Roe. Somebody will object. They'll go to lower courts, and eventually it might come up to the Supreme Court challenging the foundations of Roe v. Wade. It would take some legislative enactment for that to happen. Is that correct?
That's correct.
If there was such a action by a state or a local government challenging Roe, and it came before the Supreme Court, would you listen to both sides?
I listen to both sides in every case, Senator. I have for 12 years.
When it comes to overruling a long-standing precedent of the court, is there a formula that you use? Analysis.
So, first of all, you start with the notion of precedent. And as I've said to Senator Feinstein, in this context, this is a precedent that's been reaffirmed many times over 45 years, including in Planned Parenthood versus Casey, where they specifically considered whether to overrule and reaffirmed and applied all the stare decisis factors. So that importantly became precedent on precedent in this context. But you look at, there are factors you look at whenever you're considering any precedent.
So there's a process in place that the court has followed for a very long time.
See, he's saying things that he think you want to hear, but he already told you that that's your idea, notion of precedent. And he said, well, you look at every precedent and decide, but you know, he don't have no respect for no precedents. He does not see the Supreme Court as an entity with a reputation to uphold. And that, you know, it's just like Donald Trump. He didn't see the presidency as a continuing office. There ain't but one president of the United States. The office does not change. And when one president makes a deal, it's binding on the next president. That's what makes America America. That America's policies don't just change with people who take office. Your word has to mean something as a nation. And anybody who cares about America has to care about America's reputation as a nation. I mean, that's what happened with the Nation of Islam. W.D. Muhammad took over, and all of a sudden everything changed. Now, that ain't true Islam. That ain't this and that ain't that. What is he talking about? And you see what happened to him. You say that God lied? Let God be true and every other man be a liar. You know, if he did not agree with the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, why did he accept anything from the Honorable Elijah Muhammad? Why did he want to inherit anything from him? Why did he use the Honorable Elijah Muhammad's name and Master Farad Muhammad's name to convince those who believed in them to follow him? I'll tell you why. Because he's a traitor. The messenger said that Allah had told him about Malcolm and Wallace about 30-something years before it happened.
He said, I'm not surprised. He said, the public is surprised, but I'm not surprised. I was told about these boys 30-something years ago. So, you know, that was why the messenger said that one day the whole nation was going to be tried. Now America is being tried for what you claimed you were about. You running around overthrowing and saying dictators is wrong and they should not do their people like that. Now you got a dictator sitting up there. You got a people trying to turn your government into a dictatorship. What you gonna do about it? Keep voting them in there? If it ain't already too late, I don't know if they done took over your voting machines yet or not.
That is correct, Senator.
Citizens United. If somebody said Citizens United has been harmful to the country and made a record that the effects of Citizens United has empowered about 20 or 30 people in the country to run all the elections, and some state or locality somewhere passed a ban on soft money, and it got to the court, would you at least listen to the argument that Citizens United needs to be revisited?
Of course, I listen to all arguments. You have an open mind. You get the briefs and arguments, and some arguments are better than others. Precedent's critically important. It's the foundation of our system, but you listen to all arguments.
Okay. Where were you on September 11th, 2001?
I was initially I was in my then office in the EOB, and then after the.
Now, it's very important that you listen to him in this answer. Now, listen to whether or not he tells you what he was wearing. Listen to whether or not he tells you what the president was wearing. Listen to whether or not he tells you what anyone was wearing. Other than his wife. Now listen.
First, if I recall, the first building we said I was in the council's office on the second floor of the West Wing for the next few minutes. Then we were all told to go down to the bottom of the West Wing, and then we were all evacuated. And I think the thought was Flight 93 might have been headed for the White House. It might have been heading here, and Secret Service. We were being hustled out, and then kind of panicked, started screaming at us. Sprint, run, and we sprinted out. My wife was a few steps ahead of me. She was President Bush's personal aide at the time, and we sprinted out. She was wearing a black and white check shirt, I remember, and we sprinted out.
Why did what she was wearing, what did that have to do with anything? She was his personal secretary. And in all of the confusion, why did he say, well, you know, when the king is in check, you notice when you have a king in check, you can take him off the board. You know, they take pawns off the board all the time. In war, when they take you out, they kill you. Notice he says she was his, he made sure that he made you understand that his wife was a personal secretary right behind the president. Listen.
White House, it might have been heading here, and Secret Service, we were being hustled out, and then kind of panicked, started screaming at us.
It was a whole lot of commotion. If they're screaming at him, there was a lot of commotion. Now watch what he says about his wife.
Sprint, run, and we sprinted out. My wife was a few steps ahead of me. She was President Bush's personal aide at the time, and we sprinted out. She was wearing a black and white check shirt, I remember, and
he hadn't said what nobody else was wearing. Why she had to be a check shirt? I mean, you done found out that you got agents over here. You got people been working with the Russian government. Now here this man, even Kavanaugh, what kind of name is that? And Scalia. Wasn't Italy one of Hitler's allies? Anyway, let's now she had him in check. Could have took him off the board right then. Huh? What kind of signal was it for a man to just be getting elected president and then have an Oval Office meeting and invite the Russian press in and keep the American press out? What kind of signal was that? It ain't over yet, just a moment.
we sprinted out the front gate, kind of into Lafayette Park, and no iPhones or anything like that. Blackberries at that point in time, we didn't have that, and our cell phones didn't work, so we were all just kind of out there. And then I remember somehow ending up seeing on TV down more on Connecticut Avenue, there were TVs out. Mayflower Hotel. I remember I was with Sarah Taylor, who worked at the White House, and we were watching as.
Have you noticed he has not stopped and visibly taken a deep breath yet? He's just talking, right? Notice these things. Now just watch. Just keep listening and watching.
Standing with her when the buildings fell.
So when somebody says post 9/11 that we've been at war and it's called the war on terrorism, you generally agree with that concept?
I do, Senator, because Congress passed the authorization for use of military force, which is still in effect, and that was passed, of course, on September 14th, 2001, 3 days later.
Let's talk about the law in war. Is there a body of law called the law of armed conflict?
There is such a body, Senator.
Is there a body of law that's called basic criminal law?
Yes, Senator.
Are there differences between those two bodies of law?
Yes, Senator.
From an American citizen's point of view, do your constitutional rights follow you? If you're in Paris, does the Fourth Amendment protect you as an American from your own government?
From your own government, yes.
Okay. So, if you're in Afghanistan, do your constitutional rights protect you against your own government?
If you're an American in Afghanistan, you have constitutional rights as against the U.S. government.
There are long-standing...
That's wrong settled law.
Isn't there also a long-settled law that goes back to the Eisentrater case? I can't remember the name of it.
Johnson versus Eisentrater.
Right. That American citizens who collaborate with the enemy are considered enemy combatants.
They can be. They can be.
Heard that deep breath? Huh? What's there to take a deep breath about? People that collaborate with enemies of America, the Constitution don't protect them from that. What does he have to take a deep breath to answer that question for? That's the kind of question that if you got to take a deep breath, maybe you taking a deep breath wondering if somebody see you. Huh? But let's listen to it again. You know, you may think that I'm making up something. Maybe I'm just paranoid. You know.
That's wrong settled law.
Isn't there also a long settled law that it goes back to the Eisentrater case? I can't remember the name of it.
Yeah. Johnson versus Eisentrater.
Right. That American citizens who collaborate with the enemy are considered enemy combatants.
They can be. They can be. They're sometimes criminally prosecuted.
Can be? What you mean can be? Even the senator had to quote him as a can be. Listen.
It goes back to the Eisentrater case. I can't remember the name of it.
Yeah. Johnson versus Eisentrater.
Right.
See, now he knew about that one. He was forthcoming with that, wasn't he? But listen to his deep breath, and then when the senator told him it, they are considered enemy combatants. Then he said they can be. That means that there's some doubt. Huh? Well, that's not the kind of answer that a man that's getting ready to be on the Supreme Court supposed to be talking about when it comes to something that's cut and dry as a so-called American citizen collaborating with the enemies of America. What is that? Okay, listen.
That American citizens who collaborate with the enemy are considered enemy combatants.
They can be. They can be. They're sometimes criminally prosecuted, sometimes treated in the military.
Well, let's talk about can be. I think
under Supreme Court precedent.
Right. There's a Supreme Court decision that said that American citizens who collaborated with Nazi saboteurs were tried by the military. Is that correct?
That is correct.
I think a couple of them were executed.
Yeah.
So if anybody doubts, there's a long-standing history in this country that your constitutional rights follow you wherever you go, but you don't have a constitutional right to turn on your own government, collaborate with the enemy of the nation. You'll be treated differently. What's the name of the case, if you can recall, that reaffirmed the concept that you could hold one of our own as an enemy combatant if they were engaged in terrorist activities in Afghanistan? Are you familiar with that case?
Yeah, Omni.
Okay. So the bottom line is, I want every American citizen to know you have constitutional rights, but you do not have a constitutional right to collaborate with the enemy. There's a body of law well developed long before 9/11 that understood the difference between basic criminal law and the law of armed conflict. Do you understand those differences?
I do understand that there are different bodies of law, of course, Senator.
See how nervous he is in answering that thing? I mean, is it just me, or did he seem nervous to you? But it's other people watching this. Am I seeing and reading too much into this? I mean, the man, to be a judge, the man is already a federal judge. And he got to stutter and go on over something that's cut and dry as treason? Okay, just a moment.
Okay, if you're confirmed, and I believe you will be, what is your hope when all of this is said and done? and your time is up, how would you like to be remembered?
Good dad, good judge.
Wrong answer. You don't go to the Supreme Court to be remembered as a good dad. You don't go up to the Supreme Court to be remembered as a good judge. You go up to the Supreme Court to see that the Constitution of the United States is upheld. Now, let me show you something here. You see, when people, see, he's being real there. He was given a chance to say what his real purpose of going up to the Supreme Court was by being asked, what do you want to be remembered as? A good dad? What that got to do with the Supreme Court? Just a moment. I want you to now, this is an ad promoting Mr. Kavanaugh. Now, watch this.
Over the past 12 years, I've ruled sometimes for the prosecution and sometimes for criminal defendants, sometimes for workers and sometimes for businesses. In each case, I have followed the law. If confirmed in the Supreme Court, I will keep an open mind in every case. I will always strive to preserve the Constitution of the United States and the American rule of law.
Wrong word. It's not his job to preserve the Constitution. It's his job to uphold the Constitution. The Constitution already been preserved and is being preserved. See, he's double talking. When he was asked what did he want to be remembered for, did he say anything about the Constitution? Then what is that ad about? Nothing but a lie. The American people preserved the Constitution by voting for people who will uphold the Constitution as it is. Huh? Now, if you want to put him on there, you go and put him up there. Yeah, just let them alt-right and all them people who you don't know where they came from, taking over your government from the inside, taking it away from you. Because you love money. You got Mitch McConnell and all of them up there. I don't know what he's about. But I know this. He sure don't act like somebody who care about this country. Let me show you why. When you get in government, you're supposed to know that this is the government of the United States, and those who are called Democrats and those who are called Republicans, they are brothers. And they should never forget that. The minute that you start looking at each other as enemies, you have become the enemy. The minute people start promoting, when people start promoting the idea that the left and the right are enemies to each other, everybody who promotes that is the enemy of your government. A house divided against itself. What? A house divided and then comes against each other instead of reaching across the aisle like they talk about, reach across the aisle and meet each other halfway. And when they stop doing that and start fighting each other, that house is divided. That's what your House of Representatives. They are divided. And they're divided based on their allegiance to their parties instead of to the Constitution and their nation. You better wake up. Now, don't say I didn't try to help you. I did try to help you. But I was that nigga, remember? Okay. All right. Now I want to show you just a little bit more here from on Mr. Trump now.
Last thing before we go this evening, here in the East tonight, in just under 2 minutes, it will be September 12th. And that will mean the day that is for so many the worst day of the calendar year, every year, especially here in New York and elsewhere, will be over. We've had a couple presidents since 9/11, and while everyone marks the event differently, this was the first time an American president started the day with criticism of the FBI and Justice Department. The first time a president has pumped his fist at a September 11th crowd, not at a rally, but wanting to see him during a commemorative visit to the Flight 93 National Memorial in Pennsylvania this morning. He also...
Now remember, this is the same man who during the time where I was over in Vietnam having my 19th birthday and a whole lot of others. See, I'm his age. And he was ducking out and getting doctor's excuses for bone spurs. And he got nerve enough. Now, you done messed around here and put him in the office of president, and he done started attacking the Patriots. And he didn't just start attacking Patriots. He attacked John McCain while he was running. Then he attacked the grieving parents of another fallen soldier. Then he attacked the grieving wife of her husband who was shot down over there on the African continent. This is the man who claimed that he's so patriotic. Then why he attack patriots? He's supposed to be there to honor the people who, men and women who was killed in the attack of 9/11. What he fist pumping himself for? Is that the kind of occasion that's supposed to be? How can a man who, when it came time for him to serve the country, he's so patriotic. When it came time for him to serve, he ducked out. And I can understand if you didn't go along with your war, fine. But how do you justify making judgments about people who served? And John McCain got shot down, captured, and tortured. And he says that John McCain wasn't no hero. He's just a hero because he got captured. I like people who didn't get captured. He lied. He liked, what's his name? Michael Cohen? Was that his name? His lawyer. He liked him till he got captured. And then what happened? If he liked Manafort, as long as Manafort think more of him than he do himself. Is that right? Yeah, he likes everybody that eat his boo-boo. He started disowning them as soon as Papadopoulos, he was a water boy. He was a coffee boy. Is that what he told him? Yeah, I mean, he disowned you as soon as you get captured. So that man got one purpose, is to drain the swamp. And if he have his way, it won't be nothing left of the American government when he get through. Now, you go on and hate me all you want. But remember, I'm already on the floor. I can't fall out the bed. You ain't never treated me right in this country since I've been here. But unlike you, I don't feel the need to do to others what they do to me. I would rather do to others as I would like them to do to me, because that's what the Word of God instructs me to do. So I've been warning you. I warned you that you was putting a baby in the White House. I told you sending a boy to do a man's job. You don't want to put that man in the White House. Did they listen? No, you too busy listening to that Farrakhan talking about Donald Trump self-funding. At least he can't. And Donald Trump wasn't doing self-funding nothing. Donald Trump is a liar, just like all of them who supported him. And every time he opened his mouth, he lying. Sit up there lying, talking about Puerto Rico was a unsung, what do you call it? Unsung success. In the world, Puerto Rico an unsung success. In Trump world, it is. Walter Mitty don't have nothing on Donald Trump. I don't know, y'all don't know nothing about Walter Mitty, but you know, I'm just telling you, it's a fella, fictitious character that live in a dream world. But he got you living in a dream world. Had you living in a dream world when you cast all them ballots for him. Trump gonna tell it like it is. Trump gonna Yeah. Is he doing you in better shape now? You in better shape now, right? Okay. But just look at this.
This out, departing Washington for that service in Pennsylvania, hashtag never forget. But it was, as we pointed out, last year's FBI and Justice Department. The first time a president has pumped his fist at a September 11th crowd, not at a rally, but wanting to see him during a commemorative visit to the Flight 93 National Memorial in Pennsylvania this morning. He also sent this out, departing Washington for that service.
You know, Hitler's people was cheering him when he first took charge. I mean, they was clapping and you know, hollering Heil Hitler, and I mean, they was having a grand old time. And he almost flushed Germany down the toilet. This man flushing America down the toilet if you let him. All he got to do is turn you against your own Department of Justice and your country through.
In Pennsylvania, hashtag never forget. But it was, as we pointed out, last year's photo. There's Hope Hicks and Omarosa in the photo for.
Sent a lie out that he's getting ready to go to the 911 memorial yesterday and sent a false picture out there of himself leaving the White House.
Once again, it's one of those days when a word here or there or a gesture, big or small, still carries such great meaning. Now, 17 years after that horrendous loss of life. And there's also evidence that others, including our friends and allies, have noticed a change in us. Readers of the New Zealand Herald woke up to this depiction of how they think we've changed in the 17 years since that day. And it's powerful stuff.
You see them two pictures there? 2001 had a modern hand, a modern torch, and everything. And that one right there looked like something from the 1800s. Well, back when they was making torches out of something else. The man got you marching backwards. The world see you, and you right here and don't see what's going on. That's sad.
That is our broadcast for this Tuesday night, September 11th, 2018. Thank you so very much for being with us.
With all sorts of people close to the president raising the prospect that that might have been the real reason behind lots of his behavior, everything from firing the James Comey to picking fights with Jeff Sessions. A lot of people in the White House attributed freakouts from the president and outbursts by the president as efforts to try to distract specifically from concerns about Jared's finances. So there's all sorts of little threads like that. And I know there's a lot of good personality stuff and people calling each other crazy and all those things, but there's a lot of investigative threads here too to pull, and I think this book is actually going to be the start of a lot of that reporting.
And what I'm intrigued by, and having gotten a lot of concentration until your conversation with Bob Weber tonight, is the way the governing actually works in this White House. And in that sense, that part, those parts of the book are, you can compare them to previous Woodward books inside previous presidencies. And he made a reference to the book he wrote about, the first book he wrote about the Clinton administration and NAFTA and the way NAFTA worked its way through the legislative process. And you can see in that story that he told in that book, which is titled The Agenda, everything is an extremely careful process. And every decision being made about NAFTA in its implementation and what the government would have to do to implement it is done with extreme care, both inside the Clinton White House and in the Congress when they're doing it. Mm-hmm. And then you cut to the 21st century version of this in the Trump White House, where we heard Bob Woodward tonight describing to you how he just wants to throw it all away, and people are surrounding him, telling him all of the things that NAFTA has done that he does not know about. He clearly does not know about, and it has, and the new information has no effect.
Yes, that last point. That's the key part of it, because there's a difference between a president having suspect ideas. At one point, Woodward uses the phrase dangerous ideas to talk about how even Trump's top advisors advise think about the way that he thinks about the world. But it's another thing to be unwilling or unable to engage with the implications of what you're about to do because you're so caught up in the idea of the excitement that you're about to do something big. If
you still, as a people, fail to recognize that Donald Trump don't care nothing about America. He's not trying to keep America strong and keep America as a superpower or whatever. He's draining the swamp. He's trying, with the help of many others, he's trying to destroy your country, your government. And if you want to let him, go ahead. I can't stop you. It's your country. I'm not in the business of forcing people to do stuff that they don't want to do. Allah told me to give you warning. So that's what I'm doing. I'm giving you warning. You know, look how many people was with me that I warned about going out there to that world. Did that do any good? If that's what they wanted to do? You can't make nobody. Islam is freedom. You know, you see the evidence. If you didn't see it, you see it now. Regardless to what the people around him tell him that NAFTA is this and NAFTA is doing that, and you don't want to get rid of that. Well, what did he say? Get rid of it. Why? You don't have to ask why. When you saw the man bring the Russian press into the White House, into the Oval Office, and tell the American press they can't come in there. He takes a meeting 2 hours with Vladimir Putin, and no other person in there but him. Putin's people was in there. Then he come out of that meeting, Putin swaggering, and he walking like a puppy on a leash. If you want to let them punk you like that, you go ahead. But, you know, you better be glad I ain't in charge of the FBI. I'd have been arrested everybody on Grover Norquist's list. I'd have arrested, he'd be in the White House being laid out of there in handcuffs. I'd do it in front of the whole country and let them see what happens to people who do what he been doing. Sure would. You don't let snakes take over your country. The man that's in there now, he even read the snake to you. Read it to you on a few occasions. And then he said, now does that make any sense? You knew what he was when you elected him. You knew he was a racist. You knew he was a bigot. He had showed you for the past 6 years going around the country talking about President Obama wasn't an American citizen. So don't tell me you didn't know he was a racist. What wasn't known was how many of the rest of you is racist. He wouldn't have got in there if there wasn't a bunch of racists around here. That's going to be the death of you. You in the Sabbath day now. All that foolishness was, you were told to stop that. Okay. I think there's your proof that he don't care nothing about America. Anything that people tell him is good for America, he ignore it. He buddy up to people who been the enemies of America, and the friends of America, he tell them to kiss his behind. You better back up. You better back up your Justice Department. You better back up these FBI men and women that's trying to protect you. Okay. Right on. Now let's get to the Nation of Islam.
In the nation that's impactful, and I think recruiting system, and that is big to me.
Black empowerment or the exploitation.
Now I want you to hear something from the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. Just give me a minute here.
You can't get stuff from your end and mine. This stuff was cut off before the parents of Allah. Allah created stuff off so that He could put you at His servant's mercy. It is not that Allah, God will stay among us in person, but He needs not one. Just like Himself having this anybody here.
Well, this is me. You notice, if I didn't have, in order to have the same idea as somebody, you have to have the same mind that they had. Do you understand? So the messenger, he was sent to find and raise me up. He said, this teaching will rise a powerful son of truth and the spirit of truth from this part of our planet among us. You are learning that I am like the sun out there. Anything I start speaking on, you ain't even have to ask me no questions on it. By the time I finish with it, you understand it perfectly. Is that the truth? Nobody walk outside in the daytime. If you got eyes to see, you can't see the street out there right now. But give the sun time to rise. You won't have to wonder what the street look like. The sun shows you. Here it is. Huh? What am I doing with the scripture and with everything else that I teach on? I say, here it is. Huh?
You know, if the news media would take the advice that I gave them, stop pity-patting around with that liar. When he tell a lie, call it that. That's an untruth. Well, that's a falsehood. Or that's a false statement. Why don't you just call it what it is? It's a lie. Just like what he said about Puerto Rico and gave himself an A+ on that. That's a lie. He did not do a good job on it. Talking about he's prepared for this hurricane and stuff that's coming to the East Coast. How's he prepared for it and gave away $10 million of the money for FEMA and used it to do that unjust stuff he's doing down there on the southern border? Then got all these other people helping him lie. Hitler had a whole lot of people helping him lie. That's one thing I hope the Jews catch. Every one of them that's still alive, I hope you catch them. And punish every one of them. Anyway.
I don't want to see a one of you lose your life. But you are taxing death when you're trying to bring the work of God with me to an altar. You're inviting death. I was so shamed when I was told what you were trying to do in the East. Where that I'm preparing a way for the whole nation. You want to prepare a way for yourself alone.
Now, he wasn't talking to people out in the street. He was talking to people that were supposed to be in the Nation of Islam. Bunch of hypocrites sitting up in there hollering, that's right.
So leave us alone, brother. If you don't like us, just leave us alone.
No, they can't leave us alone. That'd be too much to be too honest. A hypocrite is a liar, a pretender. Don't agree with you and won't go on, just go and leave you alone. No, I want to hang around pretending to try to undermine you. Okay. That's I'm gonna show you what that led to. The messenger saw it and he told you that it was coming.
I'm the last man to take an attempt to pull you out of the power of the white man and put you in the power of I'm the last.
You know what the power of the white man is? Everything that you and I learned from growing up here in America, from selling drugs to making drugs to carrying pistols to murdering one another, to everything that you done learned. That's the power of the white man. The knowledge that you got from him. The messenger tried to get us out of that. Just wait. Let me say it again.
Power of the white man and put you in the power of I'm the last. There's no other one coming. The other that will come, they're coming to the shore. You will not listen to what I'm teaching.
There ain't another one coming to try to beg you and pull you out the power of the white man. You notice, he told you that the last messenger, which is me, I'm called the messenger of the covenant, the Lord. It said, the Lord whom ye seek shall suddenly come to his temple, even the messenger of the covenant. And it said, the messenger told you, he said, this last one, he don't spend no time arguing with you after he get the truth to you. Once I done told you the truth and you don't want it, this conversation over. No, I'm not going to argue with you. I ain't going to beg you to stop being evil. I invite you to come out of evil. If you don't want to come out, stay in it. You're going to get what you got coming. I promise you, you're going to get everything you got coming. Now, hear this fellow, Royal Jenkins? He was in the nation. Just like Daddy Grace and Father Divine, they were some of the students of Master Farad Muhammad, right along with the messenger. And they decided to go out and do and take misadvantage of people. When you have great knowledge and understanding that other people don't have, it gives you an advantage over them. And depending on what kind of heart you got, you can abuse them. Oh, let me let you see this. Now, you just heard the messenger say they're coming to destroy you. The others, they're coming to destroy you for not listening to what I'm teaching. Listen.
For not listening to what I'm teaching. There's no other one coming. The others that will come, they're coming to destroy you for not listening to what I'm teaching.
Didn't he teach you that the Son of Man will come and be the judge? But you don't pay him no attention. That's why you didn't pay me no attention. So just wait. So this is for you.
Is it a group based on black empowerment or the exploitation of children? A&E investigates the United Nation of Islam.
My parents, they wanted the best for their children. They were naive. They just really put their trust into something that they thought was a religion, which turned out to be a monster.
Do you have any idea how many kids were trafficked by this group?
Their primary activity is structured around the labor of young children.
It was slavery. That's exactly what it was.
How could you send me on this? As an 8-year-old, you feel like I protect myself.
We've never really had the opportunity to come forward, to bring every single person that's responsible for these children being abused to justice.
Even that name he gave it, United Nation of Islam, that ain't got nothing to do with the scripture. It's like people ask me, well, what is the new nation of Islam? What's the difference in that and the old nation? I tell them, what's the difference in the New Jerusalem and Jerusalem? The nation of Islam was the fulfillment of Jerusalem. The scriptural fulfillment of it. A nation founded in peace. That place you call Jerusalem over there ain't never had no peace. The nation of Islam wasn't founded by people shedding each other's blood and killing each other and shooting guns at each other. It was founded in teaching the word of God. And then even when the temple had all these businesses and things, it reminds you of what was said in Matthew, that the disciples came to Jesus. The ministers came to the Honorable Elijah Muhammad once a month and reported to him about all the businesses that the temple had and the believers had opened up. And the messenger told them once when they came, he said, same thing Jesus told this in the book. He said, you see all these things here? I tell you, it shall not be one stone left upon another that shall not be thrown down. The messenger simply said, when we had all them businesses and markets and restaurants and importing and exporting and all of that, he said, the nation is going to go down to almost nothing. All these things you have is going to be gone. He said, but don't worry, it will be rebuilt, never to fall again. So now you have the new nation of Islam. Roy come up there talking about some united nation of Islam. You don't even have to put the word united in front of the nation of Islam. The nation of Islam is set up by God himself. And God is the unity because God is the truth. But he didn't understand. So he out there then went off on his own and took the teachings of the messenger that he corrupts with his no good additions. And then he mislead people and con people. And now you see the result of that. Destroying them. What did the messenger say? The others, they coming to destroy you for not listening to what I'm teaching. Because if you had listened to what the messenger was teaching, you would have known Royal Jenkins wasn't nothing. Because the messenger told you that the one that will come after him, he said he is called and is known as the Son of Man. I'm the only one that's known as the Son of Man. And was a part of the nation of Islam when the messenger was here. Now watch this.
I was born in Cincinnati, Ohio. Growing up, it was me, my parents, and my two siblings. Carl, he's the oldest, and then Mary's the baby girl. My parents, they wanted their children to be around the African-American mindset of entrepreneurs. They were in the Nation of Islam. The Nation of Islam didn't work out for them. So when they see Royal Jenkins in the United Nation of Islam, that's what they went for.
See, now he ain't telling it like it is. When he said the Nation of Islam didn't work out for him, in other words, when Wallace took over, more than likely, is what he's talking about, they couldn't go with that. So then they went with Royal. Because they couldn't wait on me. Royal came right here, sit right here with me, and he didn't say none of that stuff about him being no Allah and then nothing else. Did he, brother? Start talking about why Mississippi named Mississippi because somebody, Miss So-and-so, came and took a sip out the river. And asked me, did I want to hear more? I told him, no, not particularly. You know, I mean, you can't. Where do you think you're going to come talking to me outside of the Holy Scriptures and think that I'm going to believe you something from God? So, anyway, now there he is. Put the camera on him. Let the people see him. That's him. Now listen to you see, white people been knowing what's been going on. You notice they don't never say nothing about me. How come I'm not a crazy man in Mississippi think he the Son of Man?
When I had to talk with, what's his name? The Congressman Benny Thompson, they didn't even say nothing about me then. If you had asked, well, who is that he talking to? That's the Nation of Islam. The new Nation of Islam. He said, Congressman Thompson was interviewed by the new Nation of Islam. Why didn't they say about a leader and teacher of the new Nation of Islam who calls himself the Son of Man? How come they didn't say that? Same reason that that fella up there in South Haven, Michigan, that preacher that said he wanted me to come up there to his church and then call down here to my, I'm not going to help the Son of Man convert white people. We're not going to do this. Ain't that something for a man to say he's not going to help the Son of Man convert white people? What does that say he care about white people? All right. See, by saying that, what was he saying? I know he telling the truth and I can't deal with it. Huh? If the people listen to him, my gravy train gonna be cut off. Is that right? Yeah. Go over there and set that air on 76. Now, watch this. Now, there's Roy Jenkins right there.
For Roy Jenkins, Louis Farrakhan's movement of the Nation of Islam was a failure. African Americans, in his estimation, have not gotten their fair share of the American pie, that is, a community and land of their own.
Well, in the first place, that's not what the Nation of Islam is about. The Nation of Islam is about getting us, the ex-slaves of America, getting us into a new mind frame, a new set of thinking, new way of thinking, new set of thoughts, trying to get us to become righteous people. As it is written, seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these other things will be added unto you. All of the land of your own and having your own country and doing for yourself, that'll be simple. Allah will give you the rest if you just become a righteous person. The most important thing to me, and should be the most important thing to you right now, is to become a righteous person in your mind. You got to have a new mind. If you don't have a new mind, all you're going to be thinking about is money and stuff. And that's how people like Royal got over on you. Because you think that having wealth and having money and cars and bank accounts and all that, you think that's the most important thing. Because that's the most important thing that this world tells you. But those things don't mean nothing to Allah. Instead of you trying to develop a upright, righteous character, righteous mind inside of yourself, you busy chasing a dollar and doing anything whatever you can to get it. And if that's the way you are, I don't want you with me. You go on about your business. You don't have to worry about me I don't want none of your money either. Now you go on with your crookedness. So I don't need you. Or nothing you got. I remember my teacher said, I don't want one penny from you that's an unjust penny. I don't want it.
He sees himself as a viable alternative who can bring these realities into being. So Royal Jenkins started the United Nation of Islam.
Royal Jenkins ain't never saw himself as no viable alternative. Royal saw himself in a position where he could manipulate people and ride their back and get wealthy off of other people's back. He ain't never thought he was nothing special from God. He always knew he was lying. That's why when he first met me, he didn't try that with me. He asked me, do you want to hear any more? I said, not really. He shut his mouth. He didn't try to tell me I'm Allah. Then when he got away from me, you know what he told other people? He said, there's a brother in Mississippi, and the brother really believed he's the Son of Man. He must have believed it too, because he sure didn't say nothing to me about it. Him and Abbas Rasul came here. Then went out there lying to the people. You know what he told people? And you correct me if I'm wrong, any of y'all that was following him. But he said when people die, they are energy or from them or whatever goes to the sun, and that's what keeps the sun fueled. And these people buying all that foolishness. But he ain't doing so well right now. See, your lies catch up with you. Your lies find you out. You saw that picture that Trump put out there talking about leaving from the White House to go to the 911. And the man showed Omarosa standing there and whatnot, told him it's a picture from a year ago. Why would he do that? Because he's just a liar. And this Roy Jenkins, another liar.
Before, but we shouldn't confuse this group with the controversial Nation of Islam, right?
That would be correct, John. The United Nation of Islam has a well-documented track record of reviving blighted areas and restoring hope.
Royal priest that he would be the one to help minorities rise up from oppression, and we believe them.
We want this planet back. Whether any white people, black people, any people coming home, we got to get this planet back. And it's already started back. We've already started it back on this journey.
I guess the main thing that was interesting to my parents was the fact that in a low-income area, they produced businesses. And there was young African-American people.
Like I said, that's all you concerned about. It's business, money. We already done seen a world like that. If you don't want to be righteous, I'm not interested in your business skills if you don't want to be righteous. You take your little business skills and go on. That's why I don't have no lot of followers. I see how you treat Allah's word. When I'm talking to you about the word of God and that seems to disinterest you, I'll just let you go on about your business. I ain't got no time be wasting my time on somebody who don't have respect for Allah. I mean, if you want to talk about business, Donald Trump got the whole black community beat on that. But his character I wouldn't trade places with him if he had every piece of gold that exists in the universe. I wouldn't want to be in his place. What is the point of having wealth to hold in your hand, and inside of you, you are totally empty when it comes to the truly valuable things? Good character, charity, patience, goodwill towards people. Any place that I go and deal with people, I can always go back. Thanks to Almighty God Allah for teaching me how to treat others the way I want to be treated. People done worked their whole life and got them a house, got a little retirement or whatnot. He come along and steal it, while promising them they going to heaven. I'm going to heaven. He called the place where he is heaven. Every place on this planet is heaven, according to the scripture. It says God caused the firmament. He made the firmament and divided the waters beneath the firmament from the waters which were above the firmament, and God called the firmament heaven. Heaven is all these continents you walking around on. That's the physical heaven. The spiritual heaven is the one that you can't go to. I'm the only one who can go to there. I can take you there, but you sure can't go on your own. When you try to go on your own, you get confused. But I can take you. That song said, I know a place where ain't nobody crying. I'll take you there. Ain't nobody worried. And ain't no smiling faces lying to the races. Huh? All praise is due to Allah. Now this little brother, he telling on Roy now.
Who were doing something different besides getting in trouble. It was the opportunity for them to do something positive with their lives. So my parents started to participate, and my dad actually became the first minister of the study class in Cincinnati. Me and my two siblings attended the academy, which is the local school for the organization. The first thing they told us was that Royal Allah in person is the creator of everything. He is God. Royal Jenkins preached that he had been taken on a tour around the universe by scientists.
They give you a little knowledge of everything in the universe.
That lying booger. He sit up there and tell all them lies to ignorant people, dipping in and out of the teachings of the messenger about the scientists. Let me show you about the scientists here. You know, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad didn't leave me to the mercy of liars. Now you listen to this.
The will of Allah. Let thy will be done. Allah's will could not be done until the will of Him that was given us same time to rule us on the planet Earth. Then that God must have the freedom and the right of that freedom to rule according to his God. This is the white race I'm referring to. There have been many attempts made by prophets to put a stop to the will of the devil to rule the people. But he was the winner. His will had to be done because God and the scientists of God in the world, we call them prophets, they could.
Who was the scientist? Well, then how he talking about scientists came and took him all over the universe? The others, they coming to destroy you for not listening to what I'm teaching. Ain't that what he said? If you had listened to what the messenger was saying, you would have knew Roy was lying to you. Because the messenger told you who the scientist was. He said the scientists, we call them prophets, messengers. Huh? They ain't came and took Roy nowhere. Huh? See how every lie that you tell and claiming that you something to come after a man of God, you're going to wind up contradicting something that they said. Then they going to know you, whoever listening going to know you lying. Messengers of God do not contradict each other. You see, all of the prophets, they were leading up to someone. They were leading up to me. That's why they told you the Lord himself. He said, the stone that the builders rejected must he suffer many things and be rejected of this generation. It didn't just say generation of black people, it said this generation period of people. But the stone that the builders of these civilizations have rejected is now the head of all four corners. And this is the Lord's doing. And it is marvelous in our eyes. Our is talking about the prophets and messengers. Marvelous mean they cursing me out and whatnot, when all you had to do was present your argument. I fixed up a forum where you could come and present your argument. So why come in here and cuss at me? I mean, when the national director of the Ku Klux Klan came in here, even he showed me respect. Do you know what that says about you? He came in here twice. Kept his word. He said he'd be back and he came back. When he said he was. And he even told you that he advised you to follow me. So you're gonna have to answer. I mean, I got white people on tape. Got one in particular on tape that he just a moment.
Yes, we have a problem. Yes, sir.
Could I say something to you? I want to apologize, really. I called you several times. I'm a white man, and I know we differ on our beliefs, religious beliefs, but anyway, I admire you, and I have respect for you.
Well, I admire you.
I want to apologize for calling you at one time or another and saying you was a cult or judging you. No, it's not on me to judge you.
Now, this is one of the white people right here in Mississippi that I fussed out. And he called me up and apologized for how he conducted himself with me. And you heard him apologize for calling me a cult leader. He know I'm not no cult leader. This ain't no cult. Since when do cults come out in the public and let everybody hear what they teaching? The only thing you can compare me to is the prophets, the messengers. It is a reminder to the nations. We ain't bring this here to be hid. I ain't got to hide and say what I say. Let's go back to Roy now. Lion booger.
And even taking me into the sun. Most people think, they made a joke with that and everything, but it really took place. The United Nations of Islam, they mythologize sort of a history of black people that did not originate with slavery, but had a prehistory on other planets. So I think Royal's experience that he claims with the angel scientists has him as Allah on this earth, and it gives him a certain religious authority.
Elijah Muhammad, you were a member as a child of the United Nations of Islam. Why Royal Jenkins? Why did people follow him?
When a person comes from the same background as their following, the people tend to relate to them. When you have a person, when you have a person that say, well, here's a person in the code, I'm willing to.
I'll tell you why they followed him. Because it was things that he was doing and inviting them to do with him that they wanted to do. Them people wasn't interested in, ain't no way a man who's seeking righteousness going to be following somebody who leading them into evil. You might you know how you've gotten an invitation to go somewhere before? You went, maybe went back more than once. But after a while, it dawned on you that that wasn't a place for you. Is that right? You see, look, this is going to hurt your feelings. But I'm going to tell you something. You're not attracted to what you want. You're attracted to what you are. Now, you see? Now, Royal was often, it's just like people that want to be over people. They may, the average brother, the average black man in America, all he has seen from the time he's little was the most progressive people in the black community were preachers, sports figures, or entertainers. But the most high profile ones was the preachers. So what do you find the average fellow that learned how to talk a little bit or whatnot, next thing you know, he want to preach? Why? So he can feel power. Don't make no difference because what he preaching is a lie. It give him power, so he want it. And he'll preach it. You don't hear no preacher come in here and tell me that what he's preaching is the truth, and that's the word of God, and the word of God, the religion I have is from God. He knows that what he got ain't from God. If he didn't know it, he know it after he hear me. Why he still preaching it? Because it gives him power over other people. If I was making people ministers, I'd have a lot of hypocrites among me. Yeah. Just so they could get up and preach in my name. It ain't gonna happen. No. One shepherd, one sheepfold. That's what the scripture teach you. The book says one faith, one baptism, and one Lord. That's what he said. So, let me let you see a little more of this.
Take my coat off and give it to him, and he does it. Everyone that's used to being more selfish, so to speak, look at him and say, wow,
Absolutely.
these are things that make a person say, I'm going to give my last dime to see that this goes as far as it can.
It's clear to see why it might appeal to some people who have been treated as the bottom of the culture, people who have very few opportunities, whose life possibilities seem fixed and limited. And here comes this organization that says you can be more than that. In fact, you are more than that. You're God.
Well, let's be honest here. This was royal.
You see, that's why the book says, blessed are they that do hunger and thirst after what? Did it say after money? Did it say after good homes? Did it say after friendship in all walks of life? But once you get righteousness, all of those other things going to come with it anyway. Money, good homes, friendship in all walks of life. But the first thing you got to get is righteous. See? Learn to live your life in accord with the instructions that's in the Holy Scriptures. That's what the Scriptures are. They are instruction in righteousness. And as you notice, if a doctor is getting sued and he brings in the medical book and say, I did it straight by the book, and he can prove that every action he took was in the book, he ain't got to worry about nobody finding him guilty of no malpractice. And as I do, and as I teach you to do, everything by the Holy Scriptures. Nobody find fault in you. All you have to do is follow the instruction. And if you follow it, the more you practice in following the instructions, the more proficient you get in following those instructions, until pretty soon you actually will be righteous. All praise is due to Allah. So I'm going to leave it right there. We take up with this where we left off here. But here you got people sitting back trying to talk about the Nation of Islam that didn't know nothing about the Nation of Islam. What you call the United Nation of Islam and that stuff that Minister Farrakhan doing, that ain't the Nation of Islam. Even what the Honorable Elijah Muhammad had, he told us in the student enrollment
He said, what is the birth record of the said Nation of Islam? He said the said Nation of Islam has no birth record. It has no beginning nor ending. If the said Nation of Islam, that's why he said said, like so-called Negro. That's because what you was calling it, it really wasn't the Nation of Islam. You don't say the Nation of Islam is honeycombed with hypocrites. If it's hypocrites in it, it ain't no nation that every member in it submits entirely to the will of God. It is not God's will that we be hypocrites. But the nation had not been born yet. Why? Because it have no beginning nor ending. I am the beginning and the ending, saith the Lord. Now, the Nation of Islam is being born. And you looking at the head of it now. I'm the author and the finisher of the faith. Now, you see, ain't nobody arguing with me. They would like to, but they have no argument to put forth. I have the Holy Scriptures, and all they have is their own personal thinking. Everything I say fits with what the prophet said. The messenger said it has no beginning nor ending. Well, what is the meaning of Islam? Entire submission to the will of God. Know ye that the Lord, he is God. And before the coming of, it said, behold, I will send you Elijah the prophet before the coming of the great and dreadful day of the Lord. Well, how can there be a Nation of Islam before the Lord get here? I didn't hear you. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad laid the foundation for it. But I'm the builder. We look for a city whose builder is God. Okay. I wish we had more time, but that's 3 hours. It's gone. So I'm going to let you go. May Allah bless us, keep us safe, and in our right minds. And may Allah's salam alaikum.